Welcome to week 3 in CS120. So this week we're going to play with spreadsheets. So we're going to move on from Google Drive and Google Docs into Google Sheets. So Google Sheets is a lot similar to Microsoft Excel. Well, for those of you who have played with that before. If you haven't, then we're going to start off from scratch. And the tutorial is available in a brief introduction to spreadsheets and using Google Sheets tutorial. Those assume you haven't played a spreadsheet at all. Then we're going to work up to a finance spreadsheet, and there's a video there waiting for you. And then we're going to do some software research, which I'll go over in a moment. So this is just meant to be a brief overview of what you're going to cover in this week's material. So, starting off with that brief introduction. A spreadsheet is a giant calculator. And it's a calculator that allows you to make notes about the things that you calculate. So for example, here, I can play around with a budget. And the budget could have months and items in it. And the grid of a spreadsheet allows me to organize things in that way. Now, the grid view has been expanded to do other things, and that's something you can play with if you want to dive deeper into spreadsheets. We're just going to do the basics for now. Often we want to do things like total things up, and I list a couple of different ways here to make a total of the numbers, ranging from the most basic way to do it, using a spreadsheet as a calculator, to using the idea of cell references, to using the idea of formulas or functions in a spreadsheet. So take a read through this, check out the sample sheet, and then move on. Otherwise, we're going to jump into GCF Relearn some more. And they have a bunch of different tutorials for playing around with spreadsheets. And you should really go through them in order. So if you click on the topmost link here or here, that'll give you the main page in which all of these other links are present. And that takes me to this right here. So the beginning part here, the first several you've already done in the Google Drive tutorial. So you can skip the first 7 because you've already done them. And then it's broken up into parts. You have spreadsheet basics, which we'll talk a little bit about right now. And then we'll also get into a little bit of the more common advanced spreadsheet tasks. And there's some extra stuff here. And I highly recommend you take the quiz in each GCF Relearn section. That can help you warm up for the midterm exam that's coming up in a couple of weeks. Now, in your Google Drive, you have a CS120 folder. And inside that folder, you have a place for tutorials, you have a place for research, and a place for projects. And everything else you do in this course is either going to go in tutorials, research, or projects. And so there's not going to be any extra stuff floating around. An important part of this course is file management. And so you need to get good at putting things in the right spot. With that in mind, if right now I were to create a new Google spreadsheet, always name new things. Right now, this is called Untitled Spreadsheet. So I'm going to call this just messing around. I'm just going to mess around with a spreadsheet. And it fixes that name, and you can come down here and do stuff. For example, I can use the spreadsheet to count. And I can type 1. If I hit the down arrow, it'll enter 1 and let me enter 2. Down arrow enters and brings me to the next cell. I type 3 and then hit enter. Enter also fixes the value I typed and jumps me down a cell. I'm going to type 4. If I hit tab on the keyboard, it'll jump me to the right. Now, other things to do, down arrow moves you down on the keyboard, right arrow moves you right, left arrow moves you left. You can also point and click. And there are some times when pointing and clicking is a great thing, but there are other times when you want to hit either enter to jump down a cell, or use the down arrow to jump down a cell. And that's something you have to get used to depending on what you're doing. And that'll come up later on. Other thing, spreadsheets recognize patterns. So here I have a pattern, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can highlight groups of things by clicking in the middle of a cell and dragging in a direction. You can highlight rectangular regions, you can highlight columns, and you can highlight rows. And when I'm doing this, I'm doing a click and drag. So that's different than in a word processor, sort of. You can click and drag in a word processor. Something you can't do in a word processor, however, is control click after you select something, lets you select disjointed regions. So I can select a bunch of cells by using control, clicking, and then dragging to get other cells. On a touchpad, that can be kind of sketchy sometimes and hard to do, but with a mouse, it's pretty easy. I can just use click for the first option, and then control click, and I can select a bunch of different cells. And then I can choose to format them any way I want, like maybe make the background color on those cells different. So the formatting techniques are a little bit different than a word processor, but they're kind of similar. Right? In a word processor, you can still make things bold, you can change the text color, you can change the background color, you can make things bold or italics, you can change the font, you can change the font size. So there are similarities and there are differences. The big difference is you have a whole bunch of different cells, and a cell is where a row and column meet. So for example, here I'm in cell B6. All right, so I'm going to reset that, put it back to normal. Now, I made that spreadsheet in my main directory for CS120, and notice it put that in the folder I was in when I was making that. If you want something to end up in a specific folder, then you have to be in that folder when you make the file. So here, if I want a new file, in that folder, if I choose to make a new spreadsheet, then I can make that new spreadsheet. And you should always name things. Never leave things as untitled. New XS is my new spreadsheet. If I look back in my drive, I'm going to catch up. There it is. New spreadsheet is now in that folder, that directory. So directory, the word directory and folder are synonymous together. Again, I have here a different file called messing around than the one in the other one because I was in CS120 when I went to new and I chose a Google Sheet. So it's important that when you're making a file, either you're in the right directory or later you think, oh, I better move that. In which case I can right click and choose move to and put it in the right directory. You can always drag and drop too. I can grab that. Oops. Pick it up and I can put it in the appropriate folder. I can pick it up, put it in tutorials, give me a little note that said, by the way, since your sharing preferences are different in each folder, some people may not have access to that anymore. And in tutorials, there it is, and I can pick that up and I can move it into sheets. And again, it's making a note that, hey, based on the way you shared things, people may not be able to get to that anymore. All right, so sheets, basics. Some other things. You're going to have a whole bunch of tutorials from getting started, simple modifications, formatting, working with multiple sheets, and then some more complicated things about formulas and formulas. Each of these tutorials, for example, let's jump into creating simple formulas, has a bunch of text, videos, and interactions that you're going to go through. And so it's important that you go through each of these and give it a try as you go through the tutorial. And step by step, you're shown what you're doing, what it should look like. At the end of every tutorial is a challenge. And the challenge is going to start off with a file that you need to edit. Now, in your previous work in Drive, I wasn't too picky about this, but in Docs and Sheets and further on, I'm going to be. In order for me to edit this file, I need to do a couple of things. One, I need to make a copy of it. I need to give it a good name. Copy of, that's not a good name. Change it to something like your name. For example, I'm Gary. Weird. I like to call it Gary's Google Sheets, intro to formulas. Oh, I know it's Google Sheets. I don't really need that there. So I'm going to get rid of that. I might make a note about which one I'm on. So, for example, if I go back a page, I chose the simple formulas. And simple formulas is tutorial number 12. So to keep track of things, I might make a note that this is number 12. Gary's intro to formulas. So edit that title and then move it to the right spot. It's going to go into my Drive, CS120 folder. This is a tutorial, and earlier I made a new Google Sheets tutorial folder. It's very important to put stuff in the right spot. And then it says, are you sure you want to make this file name in that folder? And I hit OK. You can change either of those later, so it's no big deal. So now I have it in there. And in that tutorial, I can be given changes. And as I make them, Google is automatically saving everything, so I don't have to worry about that. Once you're done with all 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, all of those different tutorials, and they end up in the appropriate folder, then you can share that folder. Once I have them all inside my Google Sheets folder, then I can get the shareable link for that folder, and I can submit it inside Canvas. So in Canvas, once you're done, you'll have that submit button at the top. That'll bring up a text box here, and you can put the link in. And really the best way to put the link in is to put some text from my Google Sheets tutorial stuff. You highlight whichever parts of that you want to be linked. And then here is where you'll paste, Control V, the shareable link to your whole folder. I'm going to hit submit here. So you can always go and review your submissions in two ways. You can go to your grade book and you can see what you submitted, and you can go to the actual assignment and check out submission details. And it'll have whatever you submitted, anything you typed. And so when I click that, you want to double check this. Does it really lead to a folder of your stuff? If it leads to the wrong stuff, then you should worry about that. So double check that it leads to the right place. So when you are done, you're going to have a folder, a file in that folder for each of those different files there. So here I have 9 different ones that are going to be in there. And you're going to submit the link, shareable link, to that folder.
Never mind.
That's it for now.